there's a guy who basically got all of his fame off Conor McGregor, Dillon Danis, and he called you
Danis.
out. He called you out, I think, and he was trying to act like, oh, I've got money to box you or whatever the fuck was going on. And it's strange because this guy's always sort of chirping, but we've only ever seen him in a cage once against a guy who actually gave him some trouble before he submitted him. And he likes to talk, but he's getting choked out by a security guard or something the next time we see him. And I actually think that this is like so fitting because he's almost seemed to love the fact that he can talk all this shit, but doesn't get in the cage, so therefore he can keep talking. And then the fight ends up finding him on a street. And I can't think of anything worse for a so-called, like, you know, tough guy, an MMA fighter. Getting chinned is bad, but at least when you're in the cage against another fighter, there's some respect in that. When some random security guard is choking you out, I can't think of anything more humiliating for the guy.
Yeah, well, I'm going to add on to that humiliation. The guy isn't even a full-time security man. He's not a full-time bouncer. He's actually a chocolatier. That's what he does for a living. The guy's a fucking chocolatier. He's a master of chocolates. That's what he does. And he was a bit short on cash, so he's doing a few hours as a doorman. Oh. He's never done jiu-jitsu. He's done a little bit of Krav Maga. Because Raging Ally Quinta, who's fucking awesome, by the way, he does a podcast called Call Me Al.
No way.
And for my YouTube page, which look it up, Michael Bisping, for my YouTube page, I wanted to do a little video about it because Dillon Danis is a fucking dickhead, right? And yeah. I'm like, I'm not the type of guy to kick a man when he's down. I wouldn't, you know, when people get arrested and all this stuff, I'm not going to kick a man while he's down, but he deserves it because he's a little fucking stain, right? And I thought, right, I'm going to have a go at this guy, but I wanted to get some more facts. So I called Al up and he gave me the whole lowdown, and he'd been to a wedding and, you know, got plastered. He'd had a few beers, and then they go to this pub and they're going in, and the doorman says, yeah, because in America, you can't get in anywhere without ID. It's fucking annoying because I forget it all the time. England's not like that unless it's whatever. Anyway, but I'll never have mine on me. It's a fucking pain in the ass. But he didn't have his ID. So the guy goes, yeah, sorry, you can't come in. He says, don't you know who I am? Oh. And the guy's like, you know the classic line, you never say that. But the guy's like, no, I don't. So he started getting really worked up that he didn't know who he was. He said, I'm Dillon Danis, Bellator, blah, blah. And the guy goes, well, that's really cool, but I don't know. I can't let you in without ID. So then he Googles himself and he's showing him on the phone, look, this is me. And the guy says, well, that's really cool. That's really cool. No. But the law says if you don't have an ID, I cannot let you in. Okay, what part of that aren't you understanding? And then another doorman came over and Dillon started arguing with that doorman. And then he got heated and Dillon punched him in the face, right? So when it all kicked off, the other doorman, that was the chocolatier, just fucking grabbed him from behind and started choking him out. And that was that, choked him unconscious, and the police showed up and took him off. And I'm like, mate, perfect. And by the way, the other day on Instagram, Dillon Danis puts up on his story, tags me in it. When I see at Mike Bisping, I'm going to punch him on sight. I'm going to knock him out. I was like, I didn't even respond because that's just what he wants. Mate. He's just trying to create drama, have you seen and tension.
He put some footage out when the whole Jake Paul versus Dillon Danis thing was supposedly, going to happen. And he put footage out of him hitting the bag, sparring. He looked fucking terrible, mate. Like, genuinely, I've been training boxing about, a year, maybe a little longer. I thought, you look fucking terrible, mate. You look like he'd been training 2 months, and he DM'd me saying, can I come on your podcast? So I genuinely thought, what the fuck we're going to talk about, mate? You've had no career at this point. You're a day one.
You've had 2 fights for Bellator, have you? And you've done a bit of jiu-jitsu.
So right, you got choked out by the security guard. What? It's just,
mate. We should message him. You message him back, say yeah, and then I'll be on as the co-host, and we'll just fucking rip him.
And the the funniest bit was when Jake Paul recently put out that video dissing Tommy when he was like, don't be Dillon Danis. He literally used Dillon Danis as a case study of what an absolute fuck up is. And he's like, I offered him £1 million and now I'm never going to speak about him ever again. It was like, wow, what have you become?
He missed the trick there. I don't know why he's got such an inflated opinion of himself.
Well, the fact is, I mean, I guess he was carrying an injury, but also he clearly didn't want to be the guy who lost to Jake Paul, but now he's the guy who lost to the security guard.
Oh, so yeah, exactly.
It's exactly. Like, you could have had £1 million, pal. You've just got done for
twist
free.
Of fate.
For a chocolatier.
Perfect.
A chocolatier's just done you up like a
fucking chocolatier. You couldn't write it, could you?